Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Okay, I can continue.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Text number 26. Ashwatthah sarvavrikshanam devarshinam cha naradah gandharvanam chitratah siddhanam kapilo munihi. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Of all the trees, I am banyan tree, the banyan tree, and of the sages, I am the demigods. Among the demigods, I am Narada. Of the Gandharvas, I am Chitraratha, and among perfected beings, I am the sage Kapila. Text number 27. Uchchaishravasam ashvanham viddimam amritodbhavam airavatam gajendranam naranam cha naradipam. Of horses, know me to be Uchchaishrava, produced during the churning of the ocean for nectar. Of lordly elephants, I am Airavata, and among men, I am the monarch. Text number 28. Ayudanam aham vajram venunam asmi kamadhu prajanaschasmi kandarpah sarpanam asmi vasukihi. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Of weapons, I am the thunderbolt. Among cows, I am Surabhi. Of causes for procreation, I am Kandarpa, the god of love. And of serpents, I am Vasuki. Hare Krishna. Mukyantimiranta Snananjan Salakya Chakshut Miltamina Tashmai Shri Guru Venama Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu-Nityananda Shri Advaita Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupada Krishna Prasthana Buddha Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Namne Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravan Pacharya Nirvishesha Srimati Parijatta Devastadi. So in the text number 26, now we see this chapter titled as Opulence of the Absolute. Whenever we want to know how great a personality is, we try to see what are the qualities which make him great. For example, a prime minister or a president, if we say that they are a great person, we would like to know why is it they are great. So similarly, when we mention here that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna reveals his glories or his opulences by which we can understand how great he is. Actually, everything originates from Krishna and goes back to him. So qualities of everyone, qualities of every living entity, qualities of every product also are given by Krishna himself to the degree that the living entity deserves, desires, etc. so forth. So every living entity is also given a particular form of body based on their karma and so many other aspects. So we see here in text number 26, where the Lord says that of all the trees, I am the banyan tree. So we'll understand the importance of each one of these. This banyan tree is one of the most beautiful trees, and people in India also worship these banyan trees on a day-to-day basis as per part of their morning rituals, which you all may be knowing. It's a very great tree, and it has a very long lifespan, and sometimes in some places they live for as many as 300 years and above also. And in terms of banyan tree, there's a quote the Lord himself explains in Bhagavad-gītā, chapter 15, text 1. He compares the material world to a banyan tree. So in the first sloka, he says, it is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upward and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. And the second chapter, sloka, the translation says, the branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive actions of human society. So one can read the purport in detail, but the point is that this material world is compared to the banyan tree, where the roots are very, very deep rooted. Similarly, all the living entities like us are bound in this material world by the three modes of nature very deeply. Then the next point that is mentioned here is about the Narada Muni. It's mentioned that among the demigods, Narada is sages, Narada is the greatest. So we understand from Srimad Bhagavatam, Narada is a pure devotee of the Lord, and he represents Krishna in his services to Krishna. We understand a little bit about his experience and his past he is such a great devotee that he instructs Srila Vyasadeva, seeing the miserable condition of the living entities, and he tells Vyasadeva in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that the best remedial measure for removing all the troubles and miseries of all the living entities is to dedicate oneself to the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the next loka, he further says that please therefore describe the Almighty Lord's activities, which you have learned by your vast knowledge of Vedas, and that will satisfy the hankerings of great learned men, and at the same time mitigate the miseries of the common people. And that is how Srimad Bhagavatam came into the picture. Also, his role is to glorify the activities of the Lord wherever he goes, and he keeps playing his veena, which is also mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, and singing the glories of the Lord wherever he travels. And there is also a mention about his past in the first canto, seventh canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, as to how in his previous life he was Gandharva, and being known as, his name was Upabarhana, and being a Gandharva, they are naturally singers in the heavenly planets, and they are very, very beautiful to look at also. And as we see even in the material world, many times when a person is maybe a very smart boy is associated along with nice, beautiful girls, the boy becomes puffed up. So in that particular birth as Upabarhana, Narhan Muni was invited by the demigod to sing the glories of the Lord. And there are very many damsels, and they were all very, very beautiful. So Narhan Muni also at that time got puffed up, and instead of singing the glories of the Lord, he started singing the glories of the demigods. So the Prajapatis who were all present there, they got very upset, and they cursed him because of his position or power. He became puffed up, so they cursed him to take birth as a Sudra in the next birth. And thereafter, what happens is that he takes birth as son of a maidservant, but somehow he becomes fortunate enough, because devotional service is something that never goes waste. So he was born as a son of a maidservant, and he had the opportunity to serve the great sages in that is the Bhaktivedantas, and he got the opportunity to taste the remnants, their remnants also. So that is how he had a taste of devotional service, even when he was a small boy, when his mother would go out and discharging her duties as a maidservant. And then unfortunately, she gets bitten by a serpent, and then he goes about searching for the Lord, and finally the Lord reveals himself and says that in this lifetime, your devotional service is not complete, but in the next birth you will be able to glorify it. That is how he becomes Narad Muni. He's also got very many great disciples like Prahlad Maharaja, Dhruva Maharaj, who are also pure devotees of the Lord. That signifies the position of Narad Muni. Also, he is one of the great Mahajanas. Mahajanas are the authorities of, as far as the knowledge of the Lord is concerned. So Narad Muni is one of them. We know Swami, Narada, Shambhu, and so forth. And Narad Muni is one of them. So this is the greatness of Narad Muni. And this greatness is also given to him by none other than Lord Krishna himself. Then there's a mention about the Gandharvas. Of the Gandharvas, Krishna says, I am Chitrarata. So this Gandharva planet is one of the heavenly planets, and they sing very nice, beautifully, and that is their profession. So Chitrarata is one of the foremost of these Gandharvas, and there is a mention about Chitrarata in Mahabharata, where there's a pastime that when Chitrarata, he heard about the glories of Arjuna's divine chariot, he thought that let me try, and then he took a battle with Arjuna himself, and then finally he was defeated by Arjuna, and Arjuna spared his life. His wife became, that Chitrarata's wife became very happy, and she appreciated Arjuna for sparing his life. And then he actually in turn gave a benediction to Arjuna that at any point of time, you will always be having so many, at least 10 horses that will always be in a position to go anywhere at a very fast speed. So this is the background of this Chitraratha. And later, when he was defeated by Arjuna, he said that he is not in a position to retain that title as Chitraratha, and he changed his name to Yogdaratha or something like that, as mentioned in Mahabharata. That means he wanted to degrade himself after being defeated by Arjuna. And he also gave Arjuna some benedictions in terms of the weapons and etc., by which Arjuna could conquer. And the next one that is mentioned in text number 26 is about sage Kapila. Kapila Dev, as you know, is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam 3rd canto. He is the son, is an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he is also the son of great devotee yogi couple, Karda Muni and Mother Devhuti. Being one of the incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he appeared to teach what is called the Sankhya philosophy, which is a process of scientifically analyzing the material elements as to how they are connected to the Lord, and the Lord is the origin of all that is, and the Lord is the Supreme Lord is the cause of all causes. And to give a background, Kardamuni and Devahuti, when they got married itself, at that time there was an understanding that Kardamuni will leave once he gets married and they get children. So they had 9 daughters, and then at one point of time, Devahuti tells Kardamuni that we have given birth to 9 daughters, but they will get married and go away. But I need somebody to take care of myself, and that can be done only by a son. So that is how Lord Kapila was born. And at the moment Kapila was born, immediately Kardamuni took the path of renunciation and he left his home. So at that time, Devahuti was feeling a lot of separation from Kardamuni. And then that is when she asked Lord Kapila, why is it that I am suffering in this material world? Because there is so much of attachment and so forth. Not that she was attached to her husband Kardamuni, but that is the way they teach the whole world. So when Kardamuni left, she was feeling disappointed, and she asked Lord Kapila to please teach me as to how I can get rid of this material nature which is binding us by the forces of attachment. And that is how Lord Kapila teaches the Sankhya philosophy to his mother. Not only that, she becomes so humble to plead to her own son. She says that being a woman, I am less intelligent to understand the Vedas or Vedic knowledge. So please explain it to me in a way that I can understand. This was her humility. And that is how Lord Kapila explained to her. And once he explained, Mother Devahuti became devoid of all the attachment. In text number 27, we come to the translation where it says, the Lord says, of horses know me to be Uchai Srava, producing the churning of the ocean for nectar. So there was a great battle between the demons and the demigods, and they used the Mantra mountain to churn. And in the process, many auspicious items and articles came out of the churning. So at one of the good things that came out was this Uchai Srava horse. And some qualities are mentioned about these Uchai Srava. It is said that they are as white as a moon. And the Bali Maharaj himself decided to possess this horse. And Indra did not protest in giving this horse to Bali Maharaj. And another important point that is mentioned is that they are very fast in running and very strong, and they look also very, very beautiful. The next point that is mentioned is that Airavata is an elephant that came out of the churning of the milk ocean, Mandara mountain. And this elephant, as it is generally, they walk very, very slow because they have a huge body. But this Airavata is supposed to be very, very strong, and they can go anywhere in any direction, because elephant being a huge, having a huge body, can't move around as it wills like other animals, like a horse. But Airavata had that capacity to move in anywhere in any direction. And this Airavata also was an elephant with 4 tusks, and it is there in Lord Shiva's planet also, which is Kailasha mountain. And there's one more important point that is mentioned that in Bhagavad-gītā itself, that Bhagavatam, that Airavata holds water and wine in reserve, and it can shower it in any direction it wants, and normally it showers in the direction of Lord Indra. So it says that normally Indra travels on this Airavata, who is the king of heaven. Indra, the king of heaven, travels in this elephant. The next point that is mentioned is about among men, Krishna says, I am monarch. So this monarch means they are kings. So during the Esther years, it was always said that kings would rule as a representative of the Supreme Lord. So similarly, they are big because Krishna maintains this particular universe, not only this, all the universes, through these kings who are all great devotees of the Lord. And some examples we see in the Srimad Bhagavatam also, like Maharaja Yudhishthira, Parikshit Maharaj, Lord Rama, they were all great, highly righteous kings. Why? Because they all considered themselves to be representatives of God. So that is how the kings were in the Esther years. And they were always called Raja Rishi. Raja Rishi means Raja, that is king, and Rishi, saintly personalities. That is how they were termed as Raja Rishis. And they would rule the country in a way, consulting all the Brahmanas, etc. These days, of course, as Srila Prabhupada mentions, the monarchy has reduced. And those who are ruling the Kshatriyas are not well versed in Vedic knowledge, and they are not qualified as Kshatriyas also. And that is one of the reasons we find that the whole world is in a chaos. The kings were also known as Narendra. Narendra means the best of human beings. Because they are representative of Krishna, they should demonstrate that ability as the best of human beings. And they would rule their country in a way that the whole that the citizens would always be happy. Not only that, a king is supposed to protect the citizen. They are called Kshatriyas, because Kshat means to protect. And their duty is to protect the citizens when it comes to collecting taxes. Now, citizens, when they are protected, they live happily. They give taxes to the government by which their government runs. But nowadays, we see that most of the kings live for sense gratification. And this arrangement was basically made by the Lord himself, so that the Varnasrama system, if it is established, citizens would be happy. But previously, the kings would rule for the satisfaction of the citizens, even if it comes to their own inconveniences or difficulties in the process of executing their devotees. A couple of examples was mentioned that in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, when Prithu Maharaj was performing sacrifices, Lord Vishnu himself appeared personally in that sacrificial arena. That shows how powerful and pure Prithu Maharaj was, though he was an incarnation of the Lord. He set a perfect example as to how a king should rule. So he, in fact, there is another example that is given in Srimad Bhagavatam. If a king collects taxes or funds from citizens, but does not give proper protection to human beings, he has the results of his own pious activities taken away by the citizens, and in exchange for his not giving protection, he becomes liable for punishment for the impious activities of his subjects. That means if a king extracts taxes and he rules the country and does not protect the citizens, he loses the pious activities, and also he is liable to be punished for the impious activities of the citizen also. So if if a citizen commits impious activities, he has to suffer that for that also, and he does not get any piety as a king. And that's why it is mentioned that the executive head of the state has to ensure that citizens become Krishna conscious or God conscious. That is how it was there in all the previous yugas. Also, the citizens were happy. They were devotees of the Lord. The king was ruling to attain that particular objectives. So when this happens, then sinful activities disappear. And then what happens is that there is an abundance of all the commodities and all the ingredients. That is how citizens are also happy. And we see that nowadays there's a shortage for everything. Basic essentials are also not available. And that is how, if a king rules in that particular way, he shares 1/6 of the pious activities of the citizens. Otherwise, he will share the reactions of sinful activities. So this is how the kings used to rule, and Krishna mentioned that he is the best of the kings. Another nice example given in Srimad Bhagavatam 9th canto is about Amrish Maharaj. He was an emperor of the whole world, but he did not care for his opulence at all. He knew that at some point of the other, these opulence have no material value. They may have a value, but they are not permanent. So he thought of the whole material opulence as as insignificant as a piece of stone. That's how he ruled the world, so that everybody becomes the devotee of the Lord. And he used to take advice from Brahmanas, who were all faithful devotees of the Lord, and thus rule the planet without any difficulty. And the citizens were also very happy to be chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord, and they never even aspired to go to heavenly planets also. That is how the citizens were during Amrish Maharaja's rule. Another nice example we see from Srimad Bhagavatam first canto is Parikshit Maharaj himself. He was a very great devotee of the Lord, and he was in the womb of, when he was in the womb of his mother, he saw Lord Krishna himself, who came to rescue him when Ashwatthama sent the ghastly weapon to kill him. And that is how Parikshit Maharaj was a great king. And even at the time of leaving his body, he was cursed to death, and that became the cause for him to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, which we discuss regularly in our institution. And then we come to text number 28, where Krishna says, of the weapons, I am a thunderbolt, I am the thunderbolt. So the thunderbolt, which Indra normally carries, is so powerful that it can reduce a mountain to small powder form in no time. That is how this thunderbolt is, and Krishna says that I am the thunderbolt of all the weapons. So the so-called nuclear weapons and all these things that we see have no significant value compared to the thunderbolt which was existing before. The next point that is mentioned is about how among cows, Krishna says, I am Surabhi. So these cows, Surabhi cows, are present in the Goloka planet, and unlike the other cows that we have in this earthly planet, these cows can be milked at any point of time, and they give as much of milk as one likes. In fact, they are called as dessertaries, but they don't exist in this material world. And the Lord, one of the main things that the Lord does in his service is he graces the cows. As you all see, anytime you see a picture of Krishna, he's always with cows or calves. That was his duty. He used to take all the cows and calves for grazing, and he used to be out Ashabhaishya. So the Lord keeps many such cows, and these cows are called Surabhi cows. And there is a mention in Brahma Samhita where Lord Brahma prays, Chintamani Prakara Satmazukalpa Vriksha, Lakshavradesu Surabhira Dipalayantam, Lakshmi Sahasradasambram Sedyamanam, Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Majami. The translation says, he says, I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor who is tending the cows, yielding all desire. That means these are cows that can fulfill any desire, in abodes built with spiritual gems, surrounded by millions of purpose trees, always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds and thousands of Lakshmis or Gopis. So these cows, they are called Kamadevanu cows, and they give whenever they are milk. And the Kamadenus in Goloka planet, they pour forth oceans of milk in the shape of the fountain of love. So basically, there is so much of love that the cows have for Krishna. They pour forth any amount of milk that is required. And unfortunately, even in the earthly planet, the people don't consider cow as a holy. They send them to slaughterhouses. But it is said cow is so auspicious that even if one embraces a cow that he becomes disease-free. But nowadays they send them to the slaughterhouses. And unfortunately, one politician even commented that if one hugs a cow the person can be attacked by the cow. But cows are not so aggressive. They're very, very humble, and they're very useful to society. And the next point, Krishna mentions that he is the Kandarpa of the causes of procreation. So there is a mention in the Shastras that sex desire is not prohibited, but sex desire is permitted for procreation and not for recreation. So one can perform these activities if one desires to produce good children, and that is what this Kandarpa is, and that represents Krishna. So Brahma again prays in Brahma Samhita, Venum Kanandam Arvinda Dayalaksham, Barhavidam Samastam Budasundarangam, Kandarpa Kodi Kamaniya Visheshi Shobham, Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Payami. He says, I worship that Lord, the primeval Lord Govinda, who is adept in playing on his flute with blooming eyes like petals with head, and his unique loveness charming millions of cupids. That means Krishna's beauty is, generally it is said Cupid is the most powerful personality in this material world. But Krishna's beauty is such that he charms even millions of cupids. And therefore, Krishna is more enchanting than that of a cupid. And that beauty is a millionfold. Another pastime is there in the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Once when Indra thought that Narayana Rishi was performing severe austerities in Badrika's Rama, he became envious and he sent Cupid to disturb the tapasya of Narayana Rishi. So he did not understand who this sage was, but this Narayana Rishi, none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. And Narayana Rishi did not get disturbed by the Cupid. On the other hand, Narayana Rishi actually produced a very beautiful woman called Urvashi, who is the damsel supposed to be the most beautiful in the heavenly planets. And he asked Indra to take it. Indra became very much ashamed. So this is how Lord performed his pastime. And so sex desire is something that's not prohibited, but it can be used for creating progeny. Progeny means for making children who can be devotees of the Lord. It cannot be used for sense gratification. And the last point that Krishna mentions in this sloka is that I am of the serpents, I am Vasuki. So as I mentioned, the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is mention of the churning of the Mandara mountain or Mandara hill. So there is a battle between the demigods and the demons. So at that time, they used this serpent, which is called Vasuki, which was very, very powerful serpent. And they used this Vasuki as a churning rod. So they used it, one hand, the demons kept it, on the other hand, the demigods kept it. And they used to churn this Mandara mountain using this Vasuki serpent as a churning rope. So this Vasuki is supposed to be very, very powerful this thing among snakes. Of course, it does not exist here. It is there on the higher planetary systems. So with this, Krishna explains how each one of them is great, and all of these, the qualities of this greatness to each of these living entities are endowed by Krishna only. And Krishna, that's how empowers each and everyone, whether it's a human being as a king, or whether it's a horse or an elephant. It is who Krishna who gives empowerment to each of these living entities. That is how we see that even amongst all these living entities, there are variations in terms of their qualities, because it is not their capability, but rather the empowerment given by Krishna. So that is the greatness of Krishna. So with this, I conclude the class for this session. If for the next 1 or 2 minutes, I can take some questions or comments that if anybody of you have got on the subjects that were covered today.
Thank you, Prabhuji. It was a wonderful class.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Any questions?
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna to all
Dandavat.
devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much. Any questions, comments from anybody? I can take the
Prabhuji,
class.
Vasuki was a poisonous snake, no?
Why, yes, it was a poisonous snake.
And
Snakes
what is
are always,
but
snakes
the
are
example of any non-poisonous snake?
there are still more non-poisonous snakes here also, but generally snakes are considered to be envious of the other living entities. And that is why they are an emblem of anger. They are always angry, if you see. That is the reason they bite other living entities. There may be some non-poisonous snakes also, but generally, snake is considered to be a very envious living species of life.
Okay, Prabhuji. What about that Kalia snake also is poisonous? Then this
Cobra.
Shesha, Ananta Shesha,
Shesha is none other than
Balram.
actually Balaram. So there is no mention about such a type of a snake in the material world. Normally, what we see here in this world are all generally poisonous snakes.
Okay,
Not
Prabhuji.
as Balaram takes the shape of a snake to protect Krishna.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam. Anybody else? Thank you all very much. Bhagavad-gītā ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.